All right. Well, for the next hour or so, we are going to be having a discussion about what you should be thinking about when you're planning for new software integration. And this might apply to those of you who are considering Microvellum for the first time, or maybe if you're considering an upgrade, there's going to be a lot of good information that Martin is going to be helping us with. All right, well, let's turn things over to Martin and get started with our first topic of the day, what to consider when integrating new software.
All right, thanks for the introduction, Clay. I'll just start sharing my screen. All right, yeah, glad to be here to be able to talk to you about what to consider when integrating new software. Let's see. Okay, before joining on with Microvellum, just a little bit of a background on myself. I was working as a consultant, implementing software of various types for companies to be able to integrate with their manufacturing software. I've used a variety of software from 2020 and cabinetware and other standalone systems like there's AutoCAD as well as Mastercam. When I came to looking at a lot of different options, Microvellum started to become my software of choice when integrating, just because of the flexibility that Microvellum offers and the amount of power you have available to you to be able to use all of the customization that you need to be able to reach the goals that my clients ultimately were looking for. And so what do I mean by that? With Microvellum, you have full control of your library. And so that means that you can do whatever you want to it. You're not dependent on the software provider to be able to add or subtract to your library of products. Also, the software plays no favorites towards any brand of machinery or software. So whether you have existing ERP software that you need to connect to, if you have existing machinery, it's not just privy to just one style of machinery. And so we haven't seen any machine that we haven't been able to connect to yet. And also software, we integrate and play nicely with just about any kind of software that is available as well to connect to. Powerful tools actually are already included in the box. You have Library Designer, which is a very powerful tool to be able to manage and update libraries that you have over the course of time. Report Designer is included as well in the software so that you don't need to purchase a secondary report software, and it's very powerful to be able to use as well. And the fact that we use a single database is actually a very powerful thing that not everyone is aware of when they're looking at software. One of the software platforms that I was implementing before used to have 3 databases, one for the design software, one for the ERP software, one for the engineering software, and managing 3 databases as well as which pretty much would be 3 libraries is a lot of maintenance to consider when you are integrating a brand new software. So just to give you a little bit of introduction as well over Microvellum, some of you might be new to what Microvellum is all about. And Microvellum is software that is very influenced by the customer base. It is very forward in asking customers, what do you want to see in the software? What do you like about it? And what do you want it to be able to do more of? We've started this trend with our annual tech cons that we have been having, and where there's lots of feedback from customers, much like many of you in the call right now are existing customers, I'm sure. And we take the approach of being able to streamline from all the way from the design to the estimating, engineering, and manufacturing processes. So Um, let's talk about each one of those processes today. Um, in your design aspect, you're going to be hearing Amy talk about ways to streamline your design and drafting. But prior to even starting your design and drafting, I want to be able to ask some questions so that you can consider, is your current setup already optimized? There's a lot to it, and we'll go into that a little bit more. And then we're going to touch into estimating as well. There's ways where we have tools to be able to help you streamline your estimating process. And then your engineering is definitely one of the core aspects of any manufacturing software, where engineering is going to take up a lot of time, especially if you're the kind of company that does a lot of customization, a lot of products that are more complex, not straight out of the box, but we'll have a section as well specifically on that. And then in your production, there are ways where um, your production is really the bulk of the employees in your shop. Usually only maybe 25% are in the office, and then 75% is comprised of your production. And so to be able to optimize that portion of your business is going to be a huge step forward in being able to streamline the way you work. And so first, we want to take a look at your setup. Now, if you've already chosen to work with Microvellum, Microvellum is integrated with AutoCAD, and so AutoCAD is a very powerful platform. It has a lot that is really demanded from in the millwork and the woodworking industry to be able to create good shop drawings. And so when you're creating these shop drawings, we want to take a look at how do you how is your setup currently configured. Um, AutoCAD is already a very powerful software in itself, and there are a lot of features that are going to be used in that software. Microvellum does not require all of them, but it does require some of them to really some of those tools to integrate with what we do in Microvellum. And so there's some key areas where someone like myself, a trainer, and as well as a implementer, will typically suggest, turning on certain toolbars, maybe configuring your layout to look a certain way. And so, some of uh, these toolbars are basic and necessary to have, and if you don't have them, you're looking through, maybe not seeing all the whole picture. And so we want to consider putting together a interface that will suit you the best. And so um, second to a tool, the way that your toolbar is set up in AutoCAD, you also have the ability to customize your Microvellum toolbar as well. What you see in the middle are just a few examples of some of the customization that can happen to your tool strip. You can add just about any Microvellum tool in this tool strip, and so I've seen some customers not even have it turned on, and so I can see that as obviously a note that indicates that it's not being optimized to their needs. And so be sure to have that turned on. Put in the chat if you're a current existing user, you don't have it on. And if there's anything that I'm talking about through the course of my presentation, please do ask questions. I'm just throwing out ideas as well as just trying to encourage a thought process, and what are some ways to be able to help you streamline and use your software in a more efficient way. Now, the next thing I'm talking about is being able to use your keyboard shortcuts. Anyone who has, maybe if you're thinking about using your computer ends up being, this is your tool, and if you were a master craftsman in On the bench, you would want your tools available to you within reach, and not have to, run off to one area of the shop, get a tool. It needs to be within reach. And so what we do that in a physical sense with your computer is to be able to use that keyboard in front of you to be able to get to the most common tools very quickly. And so keyboard shortcuts is probably something that I see maybe at least 50% of the users not use. Something that as a trainer as myself, I try to teach users how to just basically have habits that cause them to just perform better. If you imagine a golf instructor teaching you how to swing your club, you oftentimes, if you just kind of just pick up a club, you might not know what to do with it. You might not know what are you doing wrong that is habitual and causing you to increase the number of strokes. It's the same thing with the amount of keyboard clicks and moving your mouse unnecessarily. There are things that can cause you to work faster and produce more. And so I think that's what we're all after, whether you're the user, whether you're the whoever you are, the business owner. This is what we're after, and the topic of my subject as well is just about being able to consider whatever improvements that you can make at the beginning to help save you time in the end. And so these are a few ideas. Definitely and talk to your account manager to be able to set up anything that we want that we're talking about if you don't know how to set it up yourself. And so also the AutoCAD template can be optimized to be able to integrate with our project properties so that you're not constantly updating individual title blocks on a regular basis. It's something that as a AutoCAD draftsman, you might understand you'll need to update every time before you print. And there are, oftentimes multiple pages that you're going to be needing to update, where Microvellum can streamline that with one of our, this update title block is one area where you can get more streamlined in the way that you work. Let's move on to estimating reports. And so with estimating reports, this is something that is always been one area where I have customers asking, do you have ways of doing price-based estimating, cost-based estimating? We've had different iterations of this before, but it's been much more streamlined through using our reporting software. And these estimating reports are actually available to you. Anyone who's a current Microvellum user has these reports available to you at no cost. You might just not be using them. And so if you are not using them, it might require maybe a little bit of training or a little bit of report configuration. So definitely take a look at that. I'm sure if you look in the chat, we'll be able to put some links in there for you to be able to learn more about your estimating reports. And these have been used so that they're as easy as we can possibly think of to set up your activity stations. What you're seeing in the picture right now are a list of activity stations where you're able to input the cost per unit of measure that they actually output. So for example, if your cutting time can be calculated, your edge banding time, your finishing can be done by square foot, and there are costs that you can associate to each one of these activities, and they get all calculated out in your report. And so what you're seeing a screenshot of as well is a estimating report where it's taking your labor cost and your material costs combining them all out into a overall total cost for your project. And we have 4 variations where you can see this costing report come out maybe as a quotation that goes out to your customer, or there's 3 other costing reports that will be able to break out something as an internal report to be able to help you understand, what does it really take to make what you just processed. And so using our powerful processing engine, as well as the robust data that gets created each time you process a work order, we're able to create a very accurate costing based on your square footage of material and all the different metrics that get calculated out when you create a work order. And so what you're seeing in here as well is the fact that reports now have become even more sophisticated, where it's not just you get whatever you get is what you get, but it's very customizable as well. And so what you can see here at the top portion of this report screenshot are things like markup, overhead. So you can on the fly customize your markup, your overhead, to maybe closer reflect maybe what you would charge a specific customer, or if you understand that maybe for whatever reason this might just be a more expensive job, you can put a different markup, or you can also turn off certain things if, for example, maybe you're not charging shipping in this situation, or you're not charging for installation. You can just untick those, and those will get subtracted from the overall cost. So if you haven't taken a look at estimating reports, I strongly suggest to look a little bit more deeply into what you have available when you're using Microvellum. So the next part I'd like to talk about is this optimizing your workflow when you're doing engineering. And so this actually, there are so many different ways where you can optimize your engineering department using Microvellum. Like I said, with Microvellum being so flexible in the way that you use your software, there are a multitude of ways where you can optimize your engineering. There are what you see in front of you is just one example that's maybe more currently trending right now. Is especially in our later builds, we have a 50.7 library coming out today, scheduled out for later today to be able to have available for download. And we constantly improve our library available to you. And but I understand as well, a lot of you guys are using a highly customized library, and what we have available is also ways for you to just be able to maybe take a look at and cherry pick some ideas from our newer libraries and integrate it into your existing library. So one example here is being able to customize a material wizard, which is if you're new to Microvellum, maybe it's not going to make too much sense to you. But if you are a current user and you've not been or you've been updating to the most recent updates, you'll notice there was a drop-down menu for you to be able to customize a material wizard, which is broken down into your cut parts, which this one is a cut parts wizard, and edge band wizard, as well as your hardware wizard. And so we're just creating more ways for you to streamline the way you work. And so in this situation, what I have shown as an example is one way where I'm able to create one spec group that can potentially be used for just about any kind of material type that you're using. It's just an idea. It might not work for your specific shop, but if it does, then definitely it can help you be able to maintain fewer spec groups, and thus save time over the course of your use of the software, so that you're only maintaining one spec group. So let me just kind of dive into it a little bit deeper to just give you an example. So for example, color. You might not know, what do I mean by color? What I mean here is the finished face. So if you have a finished face that is laminate, you would put your laminate color here. Your board could be anything from particle board, could be NOF MDF, it could be plywood. That's what would go there. Your backer could be, you might call it, black laminate. You might have a specific backer that you want your shop to use. You could put that there. And then your liner might be white liner. If you're using white vellum in the interiors, it might be a maple liner if you're using a maple interior. And then what we have also in conjunction with this is we've activated formula-driven materials. This is a very powerful aspect that has been available in our very, very early versions of Microvellum, but it's really come back with a bit of a resurgence here with being able to be more customizable. And so we created an interface for you to be able to have formula-driven materials. And so these basically fill in the blanks will fill out your material through the use of formulas. And so, if this looks like something that might be able to help streamline the way that your shop will work, definitely think about reaching out again, getting in touch with your account manager to set up either training time or implementation time to be able to help you set up something to help save you guys time ongoing with probably just one initial investment. And so these are areas where I see a lot of value if you're able to do something just once and you create this system to, for example, like even customers will come to me and say that, Martin, we need to make it just as dummy proof as possible so that the guys that are using the software know exactly what they need to do, what they need to fill out, so they're not missing anything. And so I believe in a very simplified interface to be able to not have too much clutter. And so sometimes, adding features is maybe even less important than taking away unnecessary features. And so what I like to see is as much as possible is a streamlined look in terms of any wizards that you have available to you, as well as when customizing reports, which I'm going to jump into next, is just the less information is better. If it's not necessary, it doesn't need to be there. Take it away and allow the important information to really stand out. And so just to wrap up this topic here as well, perfect grain post laminate. If you're an existing user, you might recognize that perfect grain and post laminate are global features. But if you are that engineer that understands, well, I only want perfect grain turned on if it's a grained material. Well, you can take that variable and put it into your cut parts wizard. And so then that information lives more in relation to the actual material, right? So if you're, so now imagine if you were using a grain material, you can have perfect grain turned on only for that situation so that you're using just one global file. So the same thing goes for post laminate. Maybe post laminate only makes sense if you're skinning the outside of your cabinets with either a laminate or a veneer. And so post laminate is an option where certain companies will screw together a cabinet and then post laminate the finished end. And so then again, it might be very material specific. And so in this situation, I pulled that option out and put it into the cut parts wizard. Okay, so moving on to the next part of my presentation here. Labels and reports are two areas where I see huge value that can be added to a company that if you're not taking advantage of our report customization, definitely take a look into it a little bit more. Labels has become, probably more and more predominant in the industry, especially with the onset of machinery that will auto label, or just the natural advancement of being able to have more technology at the point of machining. And so if you have a label, that actually will, for one, it'll save your guy some time from writing with a Sharpie on the edge of a board, the information they need to write. It's more legible. It is potentially going to add a lot more information. And so here's an example of a label that has a lot more information. In this situation, it also was auto-labeled in position, so that even the edge bander doesn't need to look at a tiny picture with an X and correspond, okay, well, which edge band goes on which edge. It becomes more goof-proof, so to speak, where, in this idea here was to put the name of the edge band on the edge of the label. Which becomes more maybe easy to understand. You have part names that are in larger font. You have barcodes for the drilling operation, for the hinge drilling, and there's going to be a lot more potential for customization if you look at maybe just having an optimized label. Now, and your reports. What I find is that a lot of customers, no two shops are the same. You're going to operate in a different way, and you're going to have different needs. So, for example, you already have a software that is creating a list of doors. Well, in this situation, this customer has asked for a purchase order to come out of Microvellum, and so they created a door purchasing list here, where they also wanted to have some customization. If you're looking at the top, you can see certain parameters that maybe are very particular to the door supplier that they're going to send this purchase order to. And so in this situation, they know that this supplier will have a minimum charge of 1.5 square feet per door, a standard price per piece, as well as a per square foot price. And so they can easily calculate a estimated cost for this purchase order. And so once that purchase order goes in, they will receive a confirmation and very easily compare the two, and to make sure that, okay, I'm buying what I'm expecting to buy, I'm paying what I'm expecting to pay. And it's just one example of a customized report to be able to help you streamline the way that you purchase doors. And so you really can take our report and designer and customize, whichever area of your shop, your office, be able to maybe report on more specific things. There's been countless examples of that being put into place. Maybe even examples, some customers really take our report designer to the maximum, and they actually create almost a paperless system where they have interactive reports on the shop floor. They have tablets with touchscreen capability to be able to look at engineered drawings. You can really take it to the next level. And so, if you want to talk custom reports, again, reach out to your Microvellum representative, and we can talk about ways where we can help you implement more ways to streamline the way you work. And so really the takeaway here is just we want to remove all limitations that you have on your shop floor. Let's look for ways that can just eliminate steps. I'm just all about constant improvement, and we have to try to think about just anything that we repeatedly do, a computer can do faster. And so if we can systemize it, we will increase our speed, processing time. We want to increase the user's experience by streamlining that interface, and we want just more uniformity in the way that we do things. And so definitely let's you know, take a look at all these different aspects. And this is a live environment, which is great to be able to just interact. I've been talking for a little while, and I'm more of a interaction kind of individual, and so definitely want to take a look at maybe any questions that you have here that you might have put in the chat while I was talking, as well as just we'll open up the mic for any discussion, things like that. And so maybe I'll pass it over. Let's see, Clay, is there anything that you think stood out as questions I need to answer over
Yeah, as far as
the chat?
the questions go in the chat, I think we got it covered. But I did have a kind of a question, kind of a high level
Sure.
question, or maybe a topic for discussion.
Yeah.
So let's say we have a new company coming on board. Maybe they're using some other software. Maybe they are upgrading. But what are some of the first things that they should do to plan for that integration? We covered a lot of information about some of the benefits of what our technology can do for companies. But when you're put in that seat, the owner or you yourself purchase the software, and you get faced with either unplugging your existing software or maybe, like I said, integrating software for the first time. What are some of the things that we can do to help simplify that onboarding process for those types of individuals?
Okay. Yeah, great question. So something that I find, in the implementation phase, it can really, make it as very successful or not is a few things. There's obviously a few things there. One of them is really being able to dive in deep. Um, a lot of customers will prolong the adoption of a new software by really clinging so tightly to their existing software that there it what it does is it waters down the process of being able to switch over, in that you're not being fully immersed in your new software, and that causes certain things. It causes you to maybe not really be able to absorb what you're learning if you're getting training, but you're constantly switching back to your old ways. You are also maybe not being able to. It's the difference between someone who plays a sport casually or someone who is in the pros. And so if you are jumping 2 feet into your new software, you will learn the fastest. You will be able to absorb the most. That's one aspect of maybe just that's just a scheduling difference. If you're not scheduling enough time to practice your new software, it's going to take a lot longer to pick it up. The second thing is I've seen customers or companies try to really cut corners in terms of the implementation cost. They believe that they're saving money when maybe they, by maybe opting for less training or less customization and trying to do more of it self-learning and more self-customization. It's great that you have if you have that approach where you really want to own it all. I am 100% behind that, but I also believe that you should take that approach alongside with partnering with professionals that understand the software already to be able to, like I say, cut away the fluff, streamline your interfaces, your reports, your library to really work and be very suitable for your shop, because every shop is different. And so I constantly see customers, maybe they're biting off more than they can chew. When you start, you wanna crawl before you walk. You want to walk before you run. And so our software is a very wide platform, a very deep platform, and so taking on all of it at the very beginning is not in my experience, not the most efficient way to approach a new software. And so so those are just two different aspects that I would key into and when looking at new software. And I mean, even if you're an existing user and maybe you've taken one of these two approaches that I believe is a little bit suboptimal, maybe you can go back to that. You can either go back to seeing, what kind of training did I not get in the beginning, that what do I not know? And you don't know until you, really, get exposed to it. And so secondly, if maybe, you haven't taken a look at, any implementation time, an experienced implementer, myself or anyone else could help you maybe look at areas where they can streamline your reporting or your maybe custom products. And there are just almost limitless ways to be able to improve. And so, definitely, don't hold back from the resources that are available to you and use us as a consultant for you to help you find ways to cut away some of the fat, so to speak. All right. Let's see. I see a question coming in. So for existing customers with Microvellum who stack on old libraries and would like to migrate to the latest version of library, what would be a best practice and what would you advise? Good question. I've got this question quite often. So if you have an old library, my guess, without even maybe knowing you all that well, most customers that they have a library existing with a lot of customization, you've got it fine-tuned to the way that you're working, um, and you probably haven't documented the changes that you've made over the course of time. You probably forgot, what did you even do that got you where you're at right now. That's really common, and don't feel bad about that. That's if that's the situation, it's very common. And so I take it in two approaches. You can either migrate all of your changes to that, basically carry those over to a newer library. Or if you like a specific feature in the new library, you can cherry pick that feature and migrate it into your customized library. A lot of times, individuals, they'll ask me this, and maybe they're on like a 46 library or a 48 library, and right now we're at 50.7. I honestly believe it would probably be more beneficial for you to cherry pick new features and pull them into your customized library, mainly because of what I described. You might not have documented all the changes you've made. It's a lot harder to remember those very specific to your shop. And someone like myself who is not working at your shop, it would be harder for me to also know what did you change. I would very much lean towards taking our kind of updated standards, which has a higher chance of being more documented and easier and more compatible with your library. I would take those and migrate them down to your library. But now, if you had a version 6.7 library, which now is becoming, a decade plus older, I think, consider migrating over to our newest library. Now, with that option, putting them into obviously, like I said, it's if you have a very old library and you're going to a very new one, you almost want to consider it as if you're just starting from scratch. You're a new customer almost. Okay, so tell the service provider what do you guys do in your shop? What's your construction method? And get a professional like myself to be able to, basically treat it as if you're a new customer. Let's put those features in. Implement it, run a test, run 2 tests, 3 tests, 4 tests, and then when you have all the kinks worked out, okay, great, perfect. And so I see another question about running two libraries in parallel. Um, that's an option, definitely a very viable option. Um, the only consideration I would say there is you might maybe feel, oh, is it cumbersome to, oh, I always have to keep switching to my old library when I want to use my special product that my engineer who left the company designed, 4 years ago, and then I want to switch to the new one. So that's the only setback. And maybe in that situation, if it's not a great, not a huge difference between the two, or if you're just trying to move a custom product from an old library to a new library, and you have very minimal that you customized, I would definitely, cherry pick from your old library and put that into the new one. And so when I say cherry pick, I'm talking about just moving minimal amounts. You obviously have to pick a favorite. So if your base is the brand new library, then you're cherry picking from your old one. Or if your foundation is your existing highly customized library, then you're cherry picking from Microvellum's one. And so you really have to pick one platform as your foundation, and then improve it. And so I see a question from Amy. So you can also run multiple configurations while you're customizing your new library to your new standards, or working through projects already in older configurations libraries. That's a great advice. Great advice. Thank you, Amy. That is one way to transition when you are in a previous Microvellum library and moving over to a new one. And I mean, obviously, we don't want you to constantly have to keep switching between configurations if necessary. We have customers who are, maybe even using, if you're in a transition between different OEM versions as well, eventually, the old OEM is going to have to be sunsetted, and it's not meant to be a long-term solution. So, definitely it will work for that transition period, but we strongly suggest being able to have you migrate over as necessary. And so the strategies that I mentioned before still apply, but definitely take advantage of our ability to have multiple configurations. If you're in that transition period and you have old projects, definitely carry on, and you can configure in a completely different environment for your new library. So good questions there. Looking forward to any other questions out there. I'm wondering also if anyone out there who is a non-Microvellum user, we have the ability in the chat or in the participant area to say yes or no. If you're if you're not a Microvellum user, go ahead and hit the yes or raise hand. Those are kind of good ways for me to be able to help interact and see who's in the audience today, and maybe be able to see who am I, like which way am I directing my conversation to. And so yeah, go ahead and join and do that if you can find that button on your participants area. But if you have any other questions, we're available to answer. We still have time for that.
All right, Martin, I had another comment or question to put by you.
Mm-hmm.
What about, so we talked a lot about library data, we talked about reports, but what about when it comes to the machinery in the shop? A lot of times we're connecting to either one or multiple machines, maybe robotic arms, maybe like you mentioned earlier, auto labeling machines, all sorts of different machines that we can connect to. But one of the things that sometimes gets overlooked is the customization of the label, as well as the investigation into the machinery itself to ensure the connectivity is there and testing that whole process. So what do you recommend in terms of new users switching software, or maybe those that are upgrading their software, in terms of making sure the machine connectivity piece is dialed in?
Yeah, definitely a good option, a good area to talk about. So with the machinery aspect, definitely, if you, we need to know also what is your machine capable of, and so we have a lot of connectivity options. We are able to connect to an auto labeler, or if your machine has an aggregate, we're able to program, certain custom programs to run your aggregates as well. Those are definitely something to mention to your implementer, your project coordinator when you have a new implementation. Also, sometimes you might be purchasing things, so definitely reach out to an account manager if you're an existing user, about what are, maybe your new purchases that you want to implement. So those are some areas where we will only know what you tell us, and so if you can, just uh, inform us. That's the first step. And the second step, I guess, maybe you don't know what Microvellum is able to help you with. Maybe you haven't implemented a work list, but your machine's capable of that. Work list maybe just helps you load the next program a lot quicker, and so we're able to help create work lists as well. Um, you have also potential for setting up labeling at your machine maybe, but you just haven't purchased that label printer. It might be inexpensive. It might be an area where you're able to um, just expand that, and you can talk to one of us as a consultant just to be able to help you see what would be involved. We have um, and in any case, there's lots of different areas where also the optimization strategy is something that maybe hasn't been considered. I've heard very positive results on our stay down nesting is an option. So you wouldn't even be changing your machinery, but you would just be changing the way that our CNC would be traveling around your board so that it's not making multiple plunges. So to save your tool life. And I've heard that it's able to save somewhere in around 25% of your machining time as well, to be able to stay down and not jog over to a different start point and just carry on cutting. And so there's things like stay down nesting, maybe even different ways of handling small parts, with onion skinning might have been one way that you were used to, but there's also tabs, and we have the ability to create advanced tabbing, which a tab is a much smaller piece to cut off with, like a knife or a router to just uh, do the final relief of that piece. So even just different strategies like that will be able to help you um, utilize your existing machinery even better. And we even have different optimization strategies, such as favor item number. So if you're a smaller shop and you don't have that much internal space, we talk about one option is to favor item number so that you can get all of your cabinet parts for one cabinet to flow through your cutting process earlier on, so you can fill up maybe a cart with 5 items, have all the pieces for that for those 5 items in one cart, travel through your shop, get built and loaded onto your truck, so to save your internal shop space from all the miscellaneous parts from the whole job. And so we have lots of different ideas that are out there to maybe help your specific shop. You might be the other side. You might be a huge shop with lots of space, and you want to just focus on throughput. And so we could go through the other spectrum and be able to talk about improvements there. um, or even you can come and talk to us. Even some of my customers will ask me to suggest ERP solutions and ways of inventory management. And so there can be a lot of different areas that we can help you streamline the way you work. And so, yeah, definitely reach out to one of us about that. Okay, so let's see, a few more questions came up. So we had updated our MV in the office, but not the one in the shop. So when we nested sheets, the stickers did not print out. We had to update the MV to in the shop to fix that issue. Yeah, I mean, it sounded like you still had to, you got a fix for that issue here. And we always suggest that you stay on the same version on all your instances of Microvellum, whether it's Microvellum toolbox or it's our Microvellum production. We always suggest staying on the current build. Reason for that is the database structure can change. So new columns can be added to tables and new tables can be added to the database. So having the same version is is our is very it's very necessary, I think, to be on the same version across your company. So let's see, a question about ERP. I know MV offers Microvellum production, and we just use that for manufacturing purposes. What is your solution able to offer, though? What else is your solution able to offer? So with yeah, we have a Microvellum production which is used in the shop. It's basically it can be also used in your office. The only difference between your Microvellum production and toolbox is the well, there's more than one difference, but the main difference is the toolbox has AutoCAD built in, but then your production is focuses on everything else. And so with Microvellum production, you will, if you stumble across a feature that you don't currently have active, it will prompt you to contact your account manager for more information. So if you've had that pop up appear on your screen, you can definitely reach out to your account manager and maybe talk about those other options. We have let's see. Yeah, I'm not sure which options you do have available, so I'm not sure which options are you haven't looked at yet. But if the button is available and you click on it, you're not able to access it. That's probably one of the features you're not able to, that you can talk about having. Now, we don't claim that we're an ERP solution. ERP is very full encompassing software, and we tend to partner with ERP softwares more so than try to say that, because we're definitely not involved in accounting. There's a lot of ERP functionality that a company will need that we don't cover. So we're more on the manufacturing side. So that's why we call it Microvellum production. Hopefully that answers your question, but definitely reach out to your account rep to talk about more if you need to. So Clay sent out a good link for setting up a sandbox environment, and Rod said, if you have a handful of libraries or plan to update to a newer library, what is the best practice to keep the confusion for the operator of what library the work order is in? Can the work order all be published to one work order? Maybe I'll just start off with the first question and do one at a time. So to be able to let the operator know what library it's coming from, I mean, there's obviously a multitude of ways to be able to approach that. Just off the top of my head, you can either put something in a comment. You can use our library designer to put a comment in all of your library products in a certain library. That might be one way. So then you can distinguish between the two. Another way could be perhaps a report. If you're using two configurations, like what Amy suggested, maybe your report will just have something on the top of the report saying what version of the library that is being processed at the time. You could, I mean, you could have the product name change as well. There's a lot of different ways maybe that you could do to accomplish that. But in my practice, probably I would want to make sure that no matter which configuration it came from, you know, I would have maybe your product engineered in such a way that they actually match. So then there's no need to distinguish between the two. You know, maybe that's the case for you guys, maybe not. Maybe one is, you know, a completely different construction like dowel construction, and another one might be using some type of, you know, invisible fastener. I'm not sure, but, you know, there might be huge differences. But those are just a few ideas. So your second question says, can the work orders all be published to one work order folder for the operator, no matter which library I'm working in? So yes, we do have that option. We have, you know, at least I've seen it in action, but I haven't, you know, physically on my software, but I haven't seen it in action in a shop. You know, it's been a little while since I've worked in a shop, and I didn't have that feature back then. But we should have the ability to create one work order across multiple libraries, and so, you know, you're obviously a Microvellum user, so I would go ahead and try that. You know, if you have the ability already to have to add two libraries and to switch between libraries within one drawing, I'm almost certain, you know, creating a work order from all the products in one drawing should not be a problem. But if not, then definitely reach out, you know, create a ticket or find out, you know, maybe what are you missing through maybe a training session. Okay, the third question, each one of my libraries are under their own database. It was recommended to keep to me to keep my libraries in their own database versus setting them up on the fly integration. Okay, had a problem once when merging database link IDs. Okay, yeah, there's a possibility of having a problem of having you know, conflicting link IDs probably with very similar libraries. So if you have you know, Microvellum you know, 50.6 and then 50.7 and trying to merge them into one library, you know, they might have the same link ID for a certain product. And if that's the case, you might be able to also have let's see. Okay, well, we have a database management interface now where you're able to merge them. I don't think that you'll like you you know, definitely have to test this out, but I've seen the ability in our new database management interface to see if there's a conflict. And so if sorry, I notice we're going over time a little bit here, but you know, definitely pass it on to Amy right after this question. So use the database management tool. I believe it's been upgraded to perhaps overcome this situation, because we have the ability to identify if there's a duplicate exists, and you're able to overwrite or keep both or skip. And so that should overcome your issue here. So just wanted to bring that up. And so thank you for all your questions, and I'll pass it back to Clay to introduce Amy's topic.